Okay, if everyone could get in their seats, we'll roll right into the salon. This is actually the largest salon so far. Normally, typically, we get 20 to 22 images, if that, but this month we have 37. So really happy that it's really coming back. And Mike Prokosh is going to be our salon judge this month. So I'm going to go ahead and the floor to him and make sure everything. And here's the clock here. Well,
Yeah, I see it there. You want me done by 1:45 at least?
7:40 is usually a good
Okay,
time,
that's
so-
fine. In some ways, you're privileged tonight. I actually put my hearing aids in so I can hear you for a change. So if you have comments during the judging, go ahead and yell them out. I don't get bothered by that too much. If I get really upset, I throw things, but. Okay. Let's take it down a little. And I apologize for the screen. These are not looking anything like they looked on my stuff at home. You're getting a score from what I saw there. That's good there. Yeah. It's so overblown, it's gonna look either way. Okay. Go ahead. Okay. I gave this an 8. I think the bird is very well done. The stick is nice. It's got some good textures and detail, plus a little bit of spider web down there, gives you something to look at. The reason I gave it an 8 is a couple things. I couldn't tell if this was vignetted by the photographer or if it is natural. And it was a little bothersome to me that way. But more so, there's a lot of space on the bottom that's not doing anything, a lot of space on top of it. Would increase the emphasis on the bird more if we took maybe 5% or 8% off each head. And a little more of a square out of it than this. Otherwise, it's technically well done and a very nice image. Next. Okay. This one is very good capture, the timing on it. And the wings are frozen nice by the, I assume the flash was used on it. If not, either way, it's fine. Flowers in a good position. And he's a little deep into the flower. I know it's part of the story, but I'd like to see a little more just as it's entering with the beak. And that's not a big problem. It is very grainy. And you can probably even see it from out there. It's got a lot of grain in the background. And the processing of it, whatever was done to it, probably either brought that out or it's been really heavily cropped, one of the two. And because of that, I gave it a 7. Next. I like the bird. I really do. And he's got that look. But it's got a lot of things going against it. The bird itself is really distorted. I don't know what was done during processing or during the image, but it's just not falling together. It's just like it's starting to break up a little bit. Also, we have a lot of stuff around it that's really not helping. We could have cropped the top. So here to get all those little tips out of there and those little bright spots that take you out. And really, this third of the image or a quarter of the image is not adding anything to it. So I would have cropped that little there, cropped across the top, and then try to figure out what happened and why these things are breaking up. The image is kind of falling apart as you look at it. Next. 7. Okay. Good capture on timing. Yeah, the bird caught in there real nicely. The action is there. A little more nature story than the previous two. You got it doing something. And nature story is a big part of the PSA rules. The more story you have in, the higher you're supposed to score. And I gave it a little push for that. But I really get carried over to this white area over here. And it fights with the bird for which one you're going to be at. And also some very bright spots through here. And on this screen, it looks even worse because it's a little hot screen anyways, and it makes it even hotter. So I think I would have tried cropping up this side, maybe right up the edge of this branch, and taking out some of that on that side. And same thing on the other side, bring it a little there to try to get some of that background color away. Next, 7. Sorry. I'm too used to commenting and not used to scoring. Okay. This was an 8. Beautiful image. Color is great. The nice subject back there. The only thing that brought it down in my mind a little, I don't really know if I needed to include that building. And it tends to be the only thing over here that's bright. Hold your eye over to that little spot. And once you see it, you can't get away from it. You keep going back to that spot. I don't mind the road. It doesn't bother me. And that's fine. It's just that one white building. I really think the clouds are nice and they add a lot to it. And the framing works very well on the image. Next. Okay. This is a 9. On my screen, it's a very beautiful color pattern to it. And it's got some nice action going on. You see almost all, oops, getting old and don't always have my balance. The bird has done very well. The flower's done really well. I like the framing from the front. If anything, I would have just maybe cut a little bit off this edge because from here over isn't doing anything. And other than that, it's handled real well. I would have given it a 10 if it had just that little bit of corner chopped off, probably. Next. Okay. This is one I really fought over in my own mind. One of the things that's in the Photograph Society of America rules is that after the alterations and the color changes and whatever you've done to it that is allowed, it must look natural. This does not look natural. When you get up close, the colors in here and the fur doesn't look right. The stuff in the front is breaking up and having specular problems in there. And, you know, it's a great action shot, a great nature story, but it just doesn't look right. I'm not sure what happened. I think it's in sharpening. And some of the AI sharpened stuff I see shows up to what I consider kind of a plasticky look. And that's kind of what I feel this is doing. And it just, your eye just doesn't feel right with it. Okay, next. 7. If it is yours, I would try to go back to the original image and rework it, see if you can clean it up a little. Some of these I gave 7 to because I believe they can be fixed and re-entered, but if I give you an 8, you're stuck with the 8. This is our first 10. You know, it's a beautiful shot. It's sharp. Everything's there. It's got a nice pattern to draw you between the 3 subjects there, or 4 if you include each of the flowers separately, but I don't. And it fills the space nicely, but yet because of the space that was there, the 2 birds have to remain fairly small in the image because if you blow it in, they're not going to look right. So that worked out very well. The composition is very nicely done. And I can't give you higher than 10. Next. Okay. I gave this a 7. I think you got a great bee, you got a great flower, and there's a lot of good things going on it. Again, it's quite grainy in the background, more than I would expect. I don't know why that's happening some of the time. But I am more distracted by having the 2. I think this one pulls your eye away from that, especially since it's a little bit brighter than the other one. and draws you down to that corner a little bit. There might be one where we really want to crop in tight and start chopping the edges of stuff off. Same thing down here, and leave that side where it is. It's very well done, very sharp, and everything falls together well. But as I say, my eye tends to get drawn down to that corner. Next. That was a 7. Okay. This one's a 7 for a different reason. I don't like to disqualify things, but if you go into PSA rules, this would be disqualified. And I'll explain that in a second. But as far as the image itself, it is very nicely done black and white. That's good textures to it. The sky is really helping you. It's drawing your eye out into here, down into that. But you've got what appears to be a building here, bridge or some structure across the river up there. And in our rules, hand-to-man is not allowed. And this was entered in the general class. If you want to use it, put it in the X class, and then it's acceptable. Okay. Next. Ah. This one I actually have wrong on the score sheet. I must reverse this one to the next one. This should have been an 8. And if they can correct that. Okay, my sheet then has got a screw up. Wonderful capture. You get these 4 in a row, all hanging on that branch. The fills the frame. It does all the things it's supposed to. Got a little bit of highlighting along the back edge, but not enough to be bothersome. And I had not a whole lot of things to say, other than something you can't control much. But this reflection off the wings keeps getting worse and worse and becomes more distracting as I went across. I thought it was a good acceptance image, but I really couldn't give it higher than an 8. Okay. Next. This is another one on my screen that had very funny colors. I like the waterfall. It's very good, but it's a fairly medium size of the image. All this rock texture stuff doesn't feel natural. And all this, when you look at it on a good screen, it's like it's speckled. And I think 2 things. One, that draws your eye away. It makes it kind of look unnatural. And then you got a lot of room you don't need over here. And possibly on the other edge, you could include it a little more to give it somewhere to move to. But it is really hard to get away from that unnatural looking surface on the rocks, especially. And I gave that a 7. And okay, next. I'm way off of my sheet there. That's a 9. It's a little harsher looking here than on a good screen, but it's a beautiful image. The cardinal is caught in a nice position, and it's got this nice snow in there to fill it up. It's a little grainy, but it's a little graininess kind of goes with the picture okay, due to what the subject is and the softness of the image. The only thing that became questionable, and I know some people yell, the broken branch is the hand of man. I don't see it as that myself, and I left it off. The image is beautifully done. It's very muted colors on a normal screen. And as I said, I gave that a 9. Next. Another little cutie here. And this got an 8. The image of the bird itself is beautiful. It's got nice textures. It's very sharp, nothing bad in the processing. losing a little bit of focus on the tail, but you can't really control that because of the angle of the bird. If you'd taken that, then you would have had a harsher background. So it's a trade-off you get away with. More so this white area behind, which helps highlight the bird, also overpowers the bird in some ways. So, I don't know if we could tone down through this section a little and try to get that to variable, and also a little bit of the tree bark, some of the areas that are a little hot. And that was an 8. Next. Okay. This one is another one I hadn't fought with a lot. I really like the positioning, the eagle. Of course, it's isolated from its background. But I don't know what has happened in processing, but this thing does not look at all natural. The head has all kinds of details and speckles and things. The tail's got all kinds of speckles. There's some little lines here and there from over sharpening up through this area and up and across and that area up there. And when you look at it, it looks more like a painting that was kind of dabbed than it does like a photograph. It's a beautiful capture. I'm not sure if you could rework it enough to do anything with it, but I gave that a 7. Next, sorry. I forget I have to say next. Oh, I gave this an 8. Beautiful image. The colors are all very nice in it. Variety of things to look at, plus layers as you're going back into there. There are some artifacts along the top of the trees, which distracted a little bit. More so, I don't know if you need quite that much sky up on top. Really the clouds in down here, you come a little bit there. And could dance that just a hair. Otherwise, it's beautifully done. And I want to know where he finds all the lupin myself, but great image. Next. This one I got to look at. I kept changing the score on it. And if I get the score wrong, I'll never hear the end of it, I'm sure. I did give it a 10, okay. I'm still living. It's a beautiful image of these mushrooms, very nicely done. In a better screen, these show up better than they do here. They're kind of disappearing into the background because it's speckled a little bit. But all this is very sharp, very strong. Background's on there wonderfully. Got a little package down here to offset that. So this just isn't a big blank area. And it's properly sized for the frame that he used. So I don't see anything I would really change in it other than maybe the maker's name. And I gave that a 10. Next. This is another one that I gave a 7, but it's because of our rules. It is put in the general class, and you have a dock down in here. And again, if you put it in the X class, it may do better. The image itself is very nice. The capture of the northern lights is well done. It's nothing really to draw you away much. It might be a little heavy down on this corner, and whether we could just drop off enough here to get rid of that real solid black down through there. But it's nicely done, and not a whole lot I would change on it. Next. This is a 10, totally odd nature story. A very unique image. Having the 4 males all courting with the female. I didn't do it, but I would, in my own mind, I would like to see what it looked like flipped. That's just one of those things. I keep looking at it. There's all my action really is these two. And then this is kind of the fill-in, the image. But technically, everything's done well, and it's such a unique capture, and could not give it not give it a 10. And I get a few more knots in there. Next. And it's followed by a 10. And I usually don't give this many 10s, but I mean, they're making it tough on me. The owl is sharp. The owl is perfectly framed as far as in the image. The wings down, I think, works with the species well. So you have the nice detail here and then a little darkness to offset it. If anything at all I would change, I might just crop it a little on one side or the other to move the head a little more off center, but it's not enough to worry about. So nothing else I would change on it, except get a clipper out, snip them off. Very nice image. Next. I believe this is a 7. Let me look here. And yes. The waterfall is handled pretty well here. A little bit of crowding on this side with that going on. Nice flow, everything coming out here. I don't know if this one is really needed over here as part of it, or if I could have cropped somewhere in here to give more emphasis to this instead of having to draw my eye over to those. So I'm bouncing back and forth between them. There is some, very little else wrong with it. The re gets hurt a little bit by this image, or that stick, sorry, being in the bottom there. But in general, it's very well done. Nice, slow capture, and everything works on it. Next. Okay. This is one that's on my screen. Looks kind of like it does here. It seemed like it was overly hot in the whites, and you lost some detail there, especially in the beak. And it just feels like it's got water and you threw a duck on top of it. It just doesn't feel like it goes together to me. I kind of played with it a little bit and looked at it different ways and don't quite know what to change in it, but it just doesn't feel normal. I gave that a 7. Next. Okay, the great egret, they're more of a classical portrait. And I gave this an 8. It's nicely done. It's got good texture in the whites. The head is nicely sharp and everything's done well. But other than the picture of a pretty bird, there's not a lot of story to it. So it came down a little bit for that. And also, I don't know if we need quite that much dead space. That's a personal preference over there. But it was a little more dead space than I wanted to see. And for that reason, I gave it an 8. Next. Okay. This one I looked at several times, and I really like the formations that are there. I like the shape that they're in. And the leading line from going across the image, good sky in behind. There's a little bit of fringing along up here. It looks like sharpening marks right up in here. Otherwise, there's not a lot to complain about in it. It's very well done, and I gave that an 8. Next. I believe this is the first time I've scored a raccoon in competition in probably 30 years. People just must not be interested in them. I like raccoons. So. However, I gave the raccoon a 7. Yeah. Nope. Let me see here. Yep. Gave it a 7. I do think there's a lot of stuff going on around it. Some of this could be removed. The eyes are kind of lost, but that's somewhat the species. It's hard to get light into those eyes. And other than that, I don't know why I marked it that. Oh, it looks better on my screen than it does here. So, if you would you have them change that to an 8? I can tell you which one afterwards. Yeah, well, more for the year end. They know if they are or not. Okay, next. The Teton elk got a 7 also. Why did I give this a 7? Okay, this one, the background stuff is really weird. It's really falling apart up through this area. Again, this doesn't look natural. The fur things on them just don't feel right. The head doesn't feel right. And it's a little bright even on my screen, but more so this weird background, whatever was done to it, especially in the foreground here. If you look at the individual plants, they're not like sticks anymore. They're kind of blurred out. And it's not a misfocus type blur. It's just kind of something happened during processing. Again, it kind of has that little bit of plasticky look to it. That's one, I think you have a good image, but I would reprocess it if I could and see what I can improve on it. How many are using the AI sharpening? Anybody? 1, 2, 3. Okay, I probably can't blame it on that then. Okay, next. This is in the X class, and he's playing it conservatively the other way. We had a couple that were in the G class. It's just the guess and neck. And he's got a little bitty trail going down the middle. That's the only thing I see in there that's hand to man. So he was very cautious, but as an X class, it's a very nice image. The colors are vibrant. There's a nice line to lead you back to the mountains. The mountains are in pretty good shape. You have some good day for clouds. Everything kind of fell together. Question is, where do you want to crop? Personally, I just take a little bit on this side. That's not a big thing one way or the other. And I believe I gave that an 8. Yes. So wonderful colors on that one too. Next. Okay, got a great catch here. Very seldom you see them with their beaks open and doing some things. The bird is approaching. It's a little too bad the flower doesn't look very good. I don't know what's going on for sure, but whether it's processing or focus or what, but it really does not look as a very good specimen here. The bird itself is done nicely. I do like the color change here from whatever's in the background. Most of the bird is very sharp. There's a little fringing on the tip of the wing, but that's probably movement at shutter speed. So I gave that an 8. Next. I looked at this thing and looked at it, and I kept changing my mind. And I really like the beetle. I think the beetle has got all kinds of texture, it's done well. And in some ways, it should be carried the image, but it's fighting with that a little bit. But more so, it's fighting with these really bright areas. So you got all this brightness here and all this brightness over there. Maybe if we cropped it into a vertical, we could have eliminated a lot of that competition. So you'd be here to there or something like that. And that would have drawn away. And the sharpness is very nice. Everything's very nice, except these areas that you would expect to be out of focus are very bright, and then they draw you into that area. So I think just a little recrop there, and you could have a very nice image. Did I give that a score? No, I mean asking the audience. 7. Okay, next. Great waterfall, or rapid, I would call it, but that's terminology differences. The thing is very well done. I myself Kind of took me a while to get used to the colors, but with that part of the country, yes, you do get red rocks and things, so it's not what we see up here. The image itself is very well done. I myself would crop it down a little bit. I don't really need quite that much on top, maybe leave it about where that thing is. And I would bring this up probably to about here. And the real emphasis is this way. Then you get this little one breaking over this way. It draws you away from that a little bit. A good capture, good eye to see it. And technically everything appears good in it. So that should be an 8, I believe. Yes, it is. Okay. Next one. To judge the Salon, I went back to the PSA Nature Judging Guide, which is about a 20-page document and very in-depth, because I had questions on this. And one of the things we are not allowed is feral animals. PSA considers wild horses feral animals. And because they were introduced and then went wild, they fall under that category. So basically, I gave it a 7 as a disqualification, but the image itself is very nice. I just don't know where it would fit with our system, unless you might be able to put it in the X category, but I don't know if that would work either, because it's supposed to be less than 10% of hand-to-man. Well, there's no hand-to-man, so maybe it would go. That'd be a judge's decision at that time. I'm not about to make it, but I did give that a 7. It's the first time in many years I went back and had to pull the rules out and read them very carefully, because there were a couple other things in here I wasn't sure about. Next. Mule deer got a 9. Not so much on this screen as what I see at home. It is much more of a soft image there as far as colors, much more pleasant. And it really shows the deer in its habitat and how it fits in that habitat and the coloring and things around it. The deer itself is very sharp. It's in a good position. I kind of like it's looking back over its shoulder. It gives a little different look than a lot of the stuff we see. And I really don't see anything to improve in it much, other than you can find a little bigger buck. And there's always that. And I gave that a 9. Next. There's another one I fought with a lot. I ended up giving it an 8, and it kind of bounced between 7 and 8. I normally don't like things going away from me, and that was part of my problem here, but yet the head's turned enough so you do see quite a bit of the head, and they have some definition there. The treatment going to black and white, I think the whites are overpowering, and it bothered me. That way there's some good action going on, you got some nature story going on, but all these speckles of bright whites were kind of bothersome. I would like to see this in color, to see what the colors were, to see if there or something that be worked in between this and the color one to take care of some of that highlight. But good capture, everything's sharp, everything looks good, and just happened to be that area is what was converted to black and white, really got bright. Excuse me. Next. Much like our last lupin shot, very nice. This one has a little more layering to it. So you have a very determined foreground, midground, and sky. Again, there's a little bit of stuff going on in the trees. I think is probably processing, but it could also be some backlighting that's coming through them. The image itself, the sky is very good. And the foreground is very good, unless you get too close, you can't see through your glasses. And I really liked it. I gave that a 8 or 9. An 8. Okay. Next. I spent 17 trips in the Falklands. I got a feeling exactly where this was shot. And beautiful image. I like the interaction of the chicks. They doing what they do. The detail is very good in all the feathers. The only thing that I fought it all, and I gave it a 9. Could have been a 10, could have been a 9. I have a little trouble with the 2 background birds there. They draw my eye over there, and once I see them, I can ignore them. But it is a nicely done nature story, and the fat little chicks are always kind of cute. Next. I gave this an 8. About our only botany shot tonight, I think, isn't it? I don't remember seeing any others. The flower itself is done quite well. The colors are good, and the details there. The positioning of it in the frame is good. I like the dewy water, which actually shows up better on a more mild screen. I marked it down just a hair, and either want to see that tip, and I want to see it badly. I could have given up a little on the bottom here to get that. And well done image, and captured well. I kind of wonder at times though, because there's so much water on this, and there's a little bit of water there, but not much else. If the water was an add-on or not, it doesn't make a difference, but just one of those questions that come up in my mind. So I gave that an 8. And our last one. Here we have a good nature story going on, a little display between the 2 grackles. Now the branches handle nicely. The picked a hard bird to work with. The coloring on them is tough to deal with, and it's hard to get an image that doesn't have something. A little bit of eye shine isn't too bad. I think it's more so just you tend to lose the detail a little bit, and it's not anything I think to do with the photographer. I think it has more to do with the birds themselves and the coloring on them. So as they lay down their feathers, they might show some of that detail back, as you can see on the one over there, but in this one, you kind of lose all the detail through here. And there is just a little bit of fringing in a couple places, but nothing major. So I believe I gave that a 9. Yes, whoops, sorry, an 8. Okay, that should be it. Yep.
Thank you. Okay. For the 8s, we have Paul Cammon, Bay-breasted warbler. We have Markier Alden's Nature Preserve in Iceland. We have Miss Karatikin introducing the Dragonfly Sisters. Michael Greiner, Carolina Wren. John Penoyer, Prairie Color. Kristen Hoyt, Great Egret. Markier, Dragonar Faroe Islands. Carl Feigenschuh, Molus Overview, Silverton, Colorado. Rick Graves, Beak Open in Anticipation. Terry Kochever, Waterfall in San Juans. D. Honeset Dritz, Moose Frolic. Don Penoyer, Wild Lupine at Sunrise. Rob Schultz, Itasca Lady Slipper. Don Specht, Boat-tailed Grackles Display. For the nines, Marianne Sear, White-necked Jacobin. Ron Lahr, Snowy Cardinal. Michael Greiner, Mooley. Alan K. Schultz, Older Gentoo Chicks. For the tens, Carl Feigenschuh, Lesser Volateer Hummingbirds. Alan K. Schultz, Mushrooms in Schmidt Forest. Don Specht, Hooded Merganser, Courtship Challenge. And Paul Cammon, Short-eared Owl. And another graphic for you guys. Hold on here, wait for it. There you go. All right. Happy holidays, everyone. Drive safe, and thank you for coming. I need to talk to Marianne Sear if I could. What's that? Oh, Mike.
Very hard on the judge. They're very well done. Also, I want to apologize for not making any comment on how to do computer work to fix them, because I detest computers.
Thank you, Mike.
Good meeting.
Okay, someone grab the lights, please, for me. Stop recording, boom.